Hello and welcome to the Little Woman podcast. Before entering the podcast, I wanted to let you all know that Little Woman podcast now has merchandise available at society6.com/littlewomanpodcast. There you will find stickers, posters, mugs and t-shirts to fulfill all your Little Woman needs. Come and check it out. Link is also in the description. And now, to the podcast. Here is a quote from that Vermilion Flycatcher. After months of having watched Little Woman 2019 for the first time, I think I have finally put into words the core of why I dislike this movie so much. This isn't going to be pretty, so you have been warned about the tone of what follows. What bothers me is the intellectual dishonesty. Hear me out. Greta Gerwig took pains on making clear that she was trying to pay homage to Louisa May Alcott's authorial intent, as if finally liberating her from the patriarchal oppression of editors perpetuated by readers and media for 150 years. The movie was also promoted not only as the ultimate take on the novel based on the previous claim, but sneakily tried to be about woman finally made by woman, which went even as far as Meryl Streep saying that it was the first time it was directed by a woman, when in fact Gerwig is at least the third woman adapting Little Woman for the screen. The 1994 movie was written and directed by a woman, and so was the 2017 miniseries and the 2018 movie. The notion that the marriage at the end is tacked on reveals either bad reading comprehension or a stubborn refusal to actually read the text. The novel starts with the first separation of the March family, Meg's wedding, and as time passes and plot moves forward, the separation grows more and more. Jo is no longer Aunt March's caretaker. Amy leaves for Europe. Jo herself has to leave to try and make Laurie stop thinking of her. Then Laurie leaves, then Beth dies, and at the turning point of Jo's arc, she feels lonelier than ever, crushed under the weight of Beth's home responsibilities, like she has been forgotten and left behind. The plot twist is that there was someone that saw her, that knew her, that understood her, that had been loving and thinking of her all along from a distance. When adaptations forego the plot point of the poem to achieve circular structure by Jo writing Little Woman, this gets obscured. The movie acknowledges this aspect of Jo's growing loneliness, but doesn't follow through it till its last consequences, where there are other ways of solving Jo's loneliness than marriage. Sure, make her get involved in an orphanage or school in New York. Make her meet good friends with which she could build a community at Plumfield, but that requires changing the structure of Good Wives in a significant way. And Gerwig didn't want to, or I suspect couldn't, really depart from the text that way. The way she gets around it's by mocking it, which for someone that has as their intent respecting the original author is kind of nasty. There isn't a trace of irony in the ending of the book, so you are either appealing as definitive interpretation, a throwaway line in a letter, or think that Louisa May Alcott is a clumsy writer. The real, truer ending seems to be the publishing of the book. But achievements don't fend off loneliness, not in a satisfactory way. Anyone that has had an achievement knows this. Publishing a book and keeping the royalties while being great in and of itself is not the natural resolution of loneliness. It's the natural resolution of insecurity or of overcoming great exterior obstacles, which is in a way an aspect of Louisa May Alcott's story, but not of Jo's in either the novel or the movie. So the movie tries to keep the canon ending because studios won't have it another way, while mocking it because Greta Gerwig doesn't like it, and giving an alternate ending that is left vague, but also giving some crumbs to the Jo and Laurie fans with the Take Me Back letter and the golden flashback of their friendship. And that's what I think, besides of the publicity focusing on stepping on the work of other women that came before her, is the core of the intellectual dishonesty of this movie. If you really think you need to liberate Louisa May Alcott, then you change the plot to take the professor out of the equation, for real. If you accept the canon ending or of another expression of the author's wishes, then you keep it as a real ending, or at the very least, don't mock it. Here goes also the transformation of Riddick's character into a jerk. I guess she's referring to the scene where Fritz says that he doesn't like Joe's stories, when in the novel he does not like sensationalism as a genre, and Jo herself has discomforts with sensationalism as a genre. But did Greta Gerwig thought of that? No, she didn't. She didn't even read the novel. Or that's what I think, because everything that she has said about it does not happen in the novel. Back to the quote. In my opinion, a refreshing way of telling the story would have been of telling the story within a story. Tell Louisa May Alcott's Little Woman. Show us Louisa May Alcott's struggles as an author trying to get published. Carry us through the process of writing the novel, through writing and rewriting and struggle with the editors. Show us scenes from the novel as they come to life under her pen. Give Jo her canon ending. Give Louisa May Alcott the final victory of publishing and keeping the royalties. But that doesn't seem to be the movie the studios wanted. What was wanted was another version of novel Little Woman, and make it so that it has star power and commodifies feminism. And to do so, it needs to reject marriage and femininity, while at the same time do lip service to it with a throwaway. Meg telling Jo that her dreams are important too never carries on into something in the plot. It needs to satisfy people that dislike the canon ending for different reasons, while still keeping it. And that's exactly what this movie does, far more than honoring authorial intent and liberating Louisa May Alcott. As an iconic line from a character in a series would say, have you ever stopped to consider the turnout of the rebellion business? Think about it. So many people fighting the system, and the system keeps getting wealthier. There are lots of really good points here, and I have heard lots of people saying that Gerwig should have done a movie about Louisa May Alcott. But even if she had made a film about Louisa, she should have included Louisa's love for Henry and her fling with Ladislas Wisniewski. Since Gerwig constantly complained about Friedrich's looks, would there have been similar issues with Henry? A lot of people of the time said that Henry was attractive but not handsome. He was handsome to Louisa. If you read Louisa's correspondence with her publisher, Thomas Niles, the only requirements he had in terms of the book was to change Laurie's looks to be more handsome. It would be interesting to know why he didn't ask Louisa to write Fritz to be more handsome, but maybe it has something to do with Friedrich's looks being based on Henry, and showing the novel she doesn't really like pretty boys or effeminate-looking guys. In their letters, Louisa and her publisher, they do discuss about branding Louisa. Like Emily and I discussed earlier, a lot of people see Little Woman as a young adult novel, but in the 19th century, Louisa's brand was to be someone who wrote educational books for children. And because of that, she did not want the public to know about her past and her relationships, especially about the relationship with Ladislas, because he was so much younger. It seems that the men who she did care for and loved, they died. Men like Henry and John Surrey. Then the men who were fond of her cared more of her as a maternal figure rather than an equal partner. And that must have been difficult. I guess we could say that Louisa May Alcott was afraid of the cancel culture. And one of my friends said that someone with such huge celebrity status like Louisa had would not have opened up to the public about their loneliness because she was probably afraid that people would make fun of her, and she was ashamed of it. That is actually written into Little Woman. Louisa writes that Jo was not afraid of falling in love, but she was deadly afraid of what the other people are going to say about her. She's especially afraid what Laurie is going to say, and that he is going to make fun of her, which is not something that he does, because he has grown as a person. If you demand that Jo is Louisa, which is what Greta Gerwig does, the book binding scene doesn't make any sense, because it is a well-known fact that Louisa May Alcott did not care that much about Little Woman, and I 100% think it has all to do with her love life. Louisa's personal favorite book was Moods, which is a very good anthology to look at how Louisa saw Henry, and it is a book that she always went back rewriting. And then Greta Gerwig says that Jo needs to feel herself as a winner, which is why she hired a hot French guy to play Friedrich, because, quote, how could she say no to beautiful Timothée Chalamet? Those were literally her words. Jo in the novel, she doesn't find Laurie attractive. She calls him girly and he's harassing her. And like Emily said, showing that toxic masculinity, not just in Laurie, but in his and Jo's relationship, that would make an actual feminist statement. You can't say that you are being truthful to the author and then make fun of her work. On this case, it seems to be Louisa's loneliness that is being made fun of. Now the thing is, when Louisa first published Little Woman, she thought of it pretty highly, but the more popular the book came, and then she got more and more letters, people asking her to marry Joe to Laurie, she got more and more frustrated with the novel. And it's like what one of my blog readers said, that if Friedrich is based on someone who Louisa was in love with, which he is, that would explain why Louisa was very frustrated by the little girls who were writing her and asking her to rewrite the ending of the novel. Alcott scholar Susan Bailey said that writing the happy endings for her heroes was a coping mechanism for Louisa. That goes along with Louisa's belief for reincarnation, that in the next life she gets the life that she wanted with the person she was in love with. We can say the same about writers like Jane Austen. She passionately fell in love once in her life. Family did not approve. She had to give him up, and then she relived her love story and wishes of life she wanted to have in her novels. So Louisa's liberation was not being free from her editor's request. Since regards to Joe, the editor did not make any request. Louisa's real prison was her loneliness. In the novel, when Friedrich returns, it's because he has found a poem that Joe wrote about her loneliness. That poem was based to a poem that Louisa herself had written about herself. And if I quote Chrissy West, "No love waits for her except the love that she must give, neither which makes her happy." For Louisa, loneliness was not the liberation. That was the actual prison. The work alone does not satisfy her. Sometimes I wonder if more people would know about Louisa's loneliness, would they be that much against Friedrich's character? I don't think they would be. What surprised me was that Gerwig presented herself as some sort of Louisa May Alcott expert. And then she said that Louisa didn't care about love or romance, when if you do a simple Google research on Louisa and Henry Thoreau and Lady Wisniewski, you know that's complete BS. And Gerwig said that she wanted to do a good job with Amy and Laurie, romanticizing Laurie and then have Joe changing her mind about the proposal. How come is that a way to honor Amy and Laurie, since none of that happens in the novel? And for those of you who have not read the book, Joe does not send any kind of letters to Laurie. Laurie actually proposes Joe again, and this happens the moment Laurie realizes he has feelings for Amy. So when Joe's response arrives and she says no, Laurie is actually quite happy about it. Someone who I know read the book for the first time after they saw the 2019 film, and they said that because Greta Gerwig had said that Louisa hated Friedrich's character, they were expecting Joe in the book not to like him, but then were surprised when Joe in the book cannot shut up about him. The Team Laurie, Team Bear, Team whatever, that is a construction entirely made up by the filmmakers. They never show you the real reasons why Joe rejected Laurie, why she fell for Fritz. That is something that we can trace to Louisa's own life. Here is a quote from Alcott scholar Jamie Lynn Birch. "I am interested in why Gerwig thought it was so important to include anecdotes and quotations from the Alcotts' lives without giving the Alcotts a place in the film. Everyone wants Little Woman to be about the Alcotts," says Eva LaPlante, author of Marmee and Louisa. We are greeted by this fact at the very beginning of Gerwig's film. "I've had lots of trouble, so I write jolly tales." The quotation reads as an epigraph, yet in some ways this film seems to disregard those real troubles, instead choosing the easier Little Woman as a vehicle for Louisa May Alcott's real life. Louisa May Alcott experienced the bizarre world of fame in her lifetime. She was asked to stand on a stage and turn in a complete circle for her adoring audience. Fans got grasshoppers out on her lawn as souvenirs. But when she answered the door, she disappointed her readers. She was not Jo March. She was not spry or youthful. When Jo lamented, "I can't get over my disappointed in not being a boy," because she wanted to go to war, we have to realize that Louisa May Alcott did go to war, and in the end it cost her her life. In fact, her own father said that if he had known the cost, he would never have let her go. I can think of many ways to represent Alcott in the film and keeping her separate from Joe. I can imagine a narrative voice, hands writing in a cold house. Maybe that wasn't the story Gerwig meant to tell, yet she included so many of the details of the Alcott's own lives that it seems she wanted to. I wonder if any of this helps us to understand Little Woman any better. Little Woman can stand alone as art, without Louisa's life and the other lives of the Alcotts as crutch, but I am interested in where we draw the line, in how and why we want to mislead the audience into a blurry line between life and fiction. Everything that is told about the Marches affects to what is told about the Alcotts. Thank you for listening. Take care and make good choices.